For our next session will be moderated by my colleague Wes Oki. Wes is currently the CEO of CUBIO Innovation Center. His career took him to Asia, Europe, Canada, South America, and throughout the US, as his key roles were to develop new markets for newly developed tech and medtech-based products, covering over 10 plus industry segments. Internally, Wesley supported 3 global divisions in the area of marketing and product development for Asia, Europe, and the Americas. His key strengths are focused in the areas of business and technology strategy, with a bachelor's in engineering and computer science. Wes has a deep understanding of the foundations of technology. And this session will be about market and regulatory requirements for medtech. I'll give the floor to Wes.
Thank you, Xing, and thank you for inviting myself and Mark Wesson to tonight's and this morning's in some countries in China right now in the morning to the session. Again, thank you for the introduction. My name is Wes Okeke. I'm the CEO of CUBIO Innovation Center here in Houston, Texas. And CUBIO is a healthcare accelerator and a collaborative platform that supports the development of new business opportunities between the US and China. The companies that CUBIO supports are medtech primarily, but we also do other types of industries within the healthcare, biotech industries as well. But primarily we're focusing on medtech. And these are companies that have a desire to extend their markets into China, both safely and securely, while understanding the substantial growth their business would experience based on the large market demands within China. So I recently joined CUBIO just roughly 2.5, 3 months ago. I'm very, very passionate about what we're doing and excited. I see the need for companies to have the guidance and the support as they decide to land or establish a sister company or a first-time company within China that focuses on the medtech and healthcare industries. Now, I did some of my own study many months ago as I was considering helping CUBIO with this initiative, and I realized a few things. One, that the market opportunities in China in regards to the healthcare, medtech, biotech space are huge, and that's very exciting. But some of the obstacles that I know that we have to help overcome are a few. One is the education. I believe that not just in the US, but in many countries, businesses in this healthcare space, medtech space, do not understand or know of the market opportunities within China. And so one of my goals, immediate goals, was to bring on board some champions, as I call them, mentor champions, that will help with the education perspective of the businesses that we're going to reach out to and the businesses that we're going to speak to on the market opportunities in this healthcare medtech space in China. And what does that look like? I think another obstacle that we are working on that is a big obstacle is just understanding the regulatory paths. How do you overcome them? What do they look like? How do they relate to the FDA, specifically if we are working with companies out of the US? And then obviously, how does it compare to other regulatory processes in other countries? But we haven't hit the other countries yet, but we are quickly working on that. And I think thirdly is also what steps does a company take in establishing a business within China, and what are the concerns and and what are the things that you need to look out for. How do we do it safely? How do we do it securely while protecting your IP and yet being able to flourish, finding the right partners, and having the right guidance. And so CUBIO Innovation Center has partnered with two large organizations. One is JITRI, one is SIP. And these companies have really put forth a lot of effort and financial support to help the companies that we partner with and that we prepare through our acceleration program land in China. But not only that, be able to have the right resources to navigate their way through the challenges in being a successful business within China. So for the next several days, I have 2 to 3 of our champion mentors that are going to do presentations. So tonight is from us is really a presentation that Mark Wesson is going to do. Then we have another, and his is going to be focused on market and regulatory overview. Tomorrow, we're also going to have another session, and that's going to be from Margaret Wong, and she's going to speak on the 5 keys to access the Chinese market. And then hopefully towards the end of this week, we'll have a panel discussion. But at this time, I'm going to just take a quick minute and introduce Mark Wesson. Mark Wesson graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree of public health from the University of California in Berkeley. Mark Wesson's a highly skilled healthcare program professional with the skills needed to create high quality health programs. He has experience leading the analysis and restructuring of programs to improve the quality of care for patients. He's also adept at cultivating innovation using the latest technologies to improve information management and communication. Throughout his career, Mark has found and applied new and more effective ways of ensuring high quality patient care. To do that, he relies on remaining informed about the latest leadership and technology news. Mark provides consulting services to help healthcare companies improve the quality of their care programs, services, and products. He conducts complete business analytics to identify the areas that impact quality and operational excellence. He also advises startups on product, market strategy, ways of integrating emerging technologies, and innovative problem-solving methods to assure strategic success. He provides these services as an independent consultant and through Advisory Cloud, New Chip Accelerator, Alchemist Accelerator, and boards advisory platforms, and also through CUBIO Innovation Center. Mark is the Chief Financial Officer at FlowCell, a microfluids company, and you may check them out at flowcell.co. Mark has also written 10 publications and has a copyright based on functional index for living with multiple sclerosis. Mark, it's a pleasure and an honor to introduce you, and we look forward to your presentation. And you have it from here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just a minute. I thought I was going to be able to share my screen directly, but it wants the file from Google Drive, so I need just a second. And there we go. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you for the intro. That was very nice. Thank you. I'm pleased to be a part of CUBIO and to be participating in China Focus. Thank you. I'm here with you this evening to share an overview of several considerations relevant to medical device development, approval, marketing, investment, and overall business planning that I often see in my work with early stage health tech startups and learn from every day. I'd like to cover the environmental context, the market factors and trends, and a number of other items. So you can see my executive summary scrolling up here. There we go. I think it's always helpful to set some context when you're presenting. In particular, medical devices live in a part of medical technology that is being developed today. And the way that this is seen by investors is largely in these 7 types of fields. So I'll be addressing the medical devices component, obviously. Healthcare already has in practice and each year gains many enabling, sustaining, or operationally disruptive inventions. Not game changing, though sometimes still needed and helpful. It also gains lots of rescuing, innovative, advancing technologies each year. These are good innovations, good disruptions. The ones that you see here, again, are largely how the investment community tends to see areas of health tech development. Next, I'd like to give a little bit of consideration to all of the different parties that impact the success of your device. I think that we often think, well, the people that control access to it or those that purchase it are the only customers, but that's not true. And a good thought exercise at the beginning when a device is created really gives a lot of consideration to elements that are going to be necessary to include when you submit to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and provide descriptions about the device, such as what do you want it to do, who's going to use it, what attributes are most important, what might affect safety, what attributes of the device are most important in producing an improvement in health. And again, the FDA's scope here does apply to humans and animals, but that's just something to keep in mind. So even if you're developing a device for animal use or just research use, you still kind of need to go down part of this pathway to get the right notifications and documentation about the device and any permissions that they may have for you to do or not do certain things as early as you can in the process. But you also want to consider future major changes that the FDA is going to be considering and probably, I would say, already are. Though I don't work there, I would suggest that information security and conformity with data exchange standards, as well as the ability to interface with the majority of IT systems that are used by healthcare providers, are probably some of the more critically important modern elements of succeeding in what's to come. Understanding these kinds of areas will help you satisfy these parties' needs. It'll affect the information you give the FDA for classifying, labeling, approving, marketing, regulating your device. It affects, that then affects exactly to whom you expect to successfully use your device, for what reasons and why, which then has great effect on conceptualizing your market strategy and where you want to direct what I imagine are limited resources and dollars in an early stage health tech startup to the right uses at the right times. You don't want to get caught up in a regulatory submission if you really should be planning strategy and trying to develop an influencing network for the device's adoption or that sort of thing. Finally, going through this exercise, I think helps to visualize the product lifespan of the device before and helps you anticipate at what time in the future you may want to upgrade or just simply replace that device, or you see changes in practice or technology adoption changing the need and demand for your device. So who wants medical devices, and what are they telling us right now? I think a few things here, if I can get it. Scroll to the right slide, sorry. I think the question here is to focus on, is best to focus on what long-term needs will be, because COVID-19 really is, while it's very serious and is a pandemic, it's not going to strategically alter very much in the future healthcare system that is durable, I think, other than perhaps point of care testing and a few other types of devices. But I'm not going to get into that here. I'd really rather would focus on what enables the new healthcare and what patients are expecting from their providers. And those are the things that the providers are going to acquire to deliver to patient expectations. I think a good strategy, again, is to think medium to long term. Maybe one problem we have these days is we have about a 2-year COVID-19 strategy timeframe, and then we have a 2-year plus after COVID strategy timeframe. And I think the considerations that I'm listing here are going to persist for a long time to come, long after COVID-19 is gone. So in healthcare, there's a great breadth of need and consumer types and provider practices and adoption reasons. In healthcare, constant improvement initiatives, inadequate or inconvenient healthcare access, and a transactional history where patient sees a doctor, the doctor gives them a remedy, makes the system an ever-evolving but needy customer itself, not just the patient, not just the provider, the system, with many needs that aren't yet well served with these technologies that help to structure data so that it's centralized, improve communication with providers, improve engagement by patients in their own health outcomes, and cooperation with the provider, which also reduces liability, malpractice liability in the courts when a physician can better demonstrate that they had regular follow-up with a patient and that the instructions were in writing and backed by evidence. Excuse me, just gonna move right ahead here. So I did talk about interoperable data. Some of that is I went through verbally already, so I'll let you skip that slide there. I would say some trends that are out there right now are very much worth noting, and also some considerations of how we provide value to patients, to systems, to insurers, to providers. Are going to be very important in the future, and figuring out precisely what kind of value that your device provides is going to be critical, because it's not just it treats the disease faster or cheaper. People are upping their expectations. That includes insurers, that includes patients. As I mentioned, information exchange, security, and tying providers together, so that they share information, and that every time a patient walks into the office, it's not a new experience that the doctor is uninformed to experience along with the patient. But here in the US, outpatient volumes went down 50, 60% when COVID-19 hit. While that won't last, the speed with which we reopen our clinics and begin to see patients in the traditional way that doctors are used to, that schedule is still very uncertain right now. Even though we have vaccines, they're starting to be given to people, we are behind schedule on that. And opening outpatient physician offices is going to reduce demand for medical devices and software. Elective procedures are still largely being delayed across the United States. So those that are life-sustaining or life-preserving are being given priority. So surgical devices, for example, are probably experiencing an enormous reduction in demand. priority for care does remain focused on COVID-19 patients. And while the need is great in this area, I just don't think it's going to last in exactly the same way to be considered strategically sustainable. But there are increases in demand for remote monitoring. The practice is changing. It got more acceptable. Patients are more open to it. I would say the market growth drivers that are worth paying attention to here for future forecasting, I bring this up in assessing demand in just a moment, is that the growth trends for revenues in the next year are as low as 2% over this year. But most of the time, annual increases are expected to occur for the medical device sector in the range of about 4 to 6% each year. So where does that leave us in terms of what's happening with investors in the US? Clearly, deal flow slowed down when COVID-19 hit. I haven't seen any year-end evaluations of whether or not the deal volume went up, but there are some trends that are worth noting here that are very encouraging, even though temporarily it may not be. Total early stage deals increased steadily in size over the period from 2012 to 2020. And over that same time, an increasing share of these deals have gone to early stage health tech companies. So that means that we're claiming more of that dollar. That's very nice. And in particularly tight times, that's an encouraging piece of information, especially because the reason that we're all slowed down right now is health related. Deals in 2020 likely slowed down as investment horizons and time frames shortened because of the next 2 years. And the still blurry pre-post COVID predictions and reinfection waves that continue to shake our confidence a bit. Investment deal flow will continue though. I would expect slower access to investors, longer inquiry response times, some advanced early business case scrutiny accompanied with requests for better and more rigorous sales forecasts and financial models, and well-articulated business plans and marketing strategy. So as we kind of make that case, what sources of information can we look at out there that will give us a sense of demand patterns? And I've given a little bit of information here, some example reports. In 2019, non-imaging diagnostics led revenue growth in the medical device industry, which was interesting. I think that says a lot for wearables and the Internet of Things for healthcare. The global device market, again, is still expected by the more optimistic to grow at about 4 to 6.5% per year. And there was a recent survey that gave some insights in many countries that might help you determine foreign markets about what they tend to use fitness and health improvement tools for. So what is a medical device? Well, you're going to have to rely on the FDA's definition for that, because while it may have been pretty steady, they are the ultimately the authority for you. But generally, they define devices as those that are intended to diagnose, cure, mitigate, treat, or prevent disease in men or other animals. Almost every medical device maker that meets this definition will be required to file what is called a pre-market notification, which is a notification submission to the FDA that explains, again, what you intend to use the device for, who you want to sell it to, things like that. And as part of that, they'll have questions for you about how similar the device you want to sell is to other devices across the, the library, the database of devices that they've approved in the past. Something that I'll show you here in a minute is encouraging about how many are considered unlike prior devices. But a more unknown or novel or cutting edge device suggests that the body of scientific evidence on safety and efficacy of the use for that device may not be well developed or conflicting or may need further development. And in that case, they may ask you to do clinical trials in support of what they expect will be a more formal application for you later on before you can sell the device, called a pre-market authorization. And those are generally for higher risk devices or devices unlike devices they have approved before, as I mentioned. I've included some information here on one key component of your 510(k) submission called the intended use statement or the product classification. What's important here is that it does affect your approval and labeling, as I mentioned. And it's also shown as a publicly searchable record by your competitors. So you don't want to be too thorough in this description and give away more than you need to. But it is considered in some of the literature as a major cause of delay or resubmission by the FDA. But it is encouraging to know that the FDA does allow for advisory meetings to be set up so you can get your advice on areas that are unclear about the submission. So some quick trends on device approvals since 2013 to 2020. The number of devices approved per year has stayed somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3,000 per year. I don't know what that means. Maybe they're buzzing along at their normal productivity, or they only let 3,000 out of 7,000 per year get through, but they are holding a pretty steady productivity rate, which is not true for drugs. Their drug approval rate is not as productive. Also encouraging about this, is that the number of approvals that required further diligence and clinical trials seems to amount to about 1 or 2%. Now, we don't know if that's going to stay that way, but it does suggest that most people make a submission saying their device is a lot like other things from the past, which suggests perhaps not quite, more incremental innovation, but innovation nonetheless, and also suggests that you may have a pretty high degree of success filing just a 510(k) without more rigorous FDA work being needed. That said, that's an update on some trends and what I think are some potential strategies here. Towards the end in Appendix A, I've included kind of a decision algorithm for classifying your device in your first submission. And then here I'll leave up a little bit of bio information for just a moment. If you'd like to contact me, I'm more than happy to speak with you about the US experience, and more than happy to learn about the Chinese need and the healthcare system there, and what CUBIO can do to help. Thank you very much. Leslie, I'll turn it back over to you.
Sure, and thank you, Mark, for your presentation, and thank you for your insight and your experience, and we appreciate it. I don't have any hands raised up for any questions. Does anyone have any questions for Mark or myself at this time?
people are quiet.
So
I'm happy to provide a copy of this deck and make sure that it's nice and airtight and the links are all good, which they should be. It's a well-cited deck backed up with current research, and I'm happy to share it for those that want to see it.
okay, thank you. Again, I'm just going to mention that CUBIO Innovation Center has launched a campaign called the CUBIO Texas Challenge, and I put the link under the chat. If anyone desires to get our support, we don't ask for any out-of-pocket money to help you get going. The acceleration program is free, and we begin to help you get on this journey in establishing your business. Now, realize we have two of our partners in China. One looks for more earlier stage companies, and the other one mid to later stage companies. Again, the acceleration program that CUBIO Innovation Center provides is free. And our goal is to get you connected and established in China. And it's a rigorous process, but we're there every step of the way. Our partners in China do help with initial funding so that you're not landing there in the beginning trying to do all this, all the work and the business registrations on your own costs. So we help you with that as well. But first, the program, the acceleration program is through CUBIO here in Houston, and again that is free. One person just asked for the presentation, Mark. We will ensure that Xing has the presentation, and so you would need to reach out to China Focus for a copy of Mark's presentation. And thank you.
Mark, also feel free to leave your email here if you wish, and I'll be also glad to be the contact for any following questions or connection.
Mark, can you leave? Do you want Mark to leave his email or myself?
Mark, yeah, okay. Feel free to do that.
I will be happy to do that.
So yeah, just put it in the chat under. Question for you, Mark. Sorry, one did come in about the wearable device as the digital health tool besides Apple Watch approved as the medical device. How about other wearable devices approved as medical device by US FDA? So I believe this question is based on medical devices or wearables. You may want to define what a wearable is, right? Because not all wearables are on the wrist. And there are many different types of wearables that we put on our body that have the ability or potential to be FDA cleared. So do you have any comments on that? And I can ask it again. The question is about wearable devices as a digital health tool. Besides Apple Watch approved as a medical device, and I believe that was specific to the heart rate sensor on the Apple Watch. How about other wearable devices approved as medical devices by the US FDA?
That's a great question. You know, what you can do is go to the product database on the medical device page of the FDA and see and put in wearable, because I think that may be kind of a good keyword in device description. Probably a lot. The way I keep up with what is out there right now is by monitoring a place called C as in China, B as in boy, insights.com. I can put that in here, and they provide a lot of what are called market maps, which help me track all kinds of devices. And they offer a lot of their research, current research, for free.
Good. And once again, Mark has put his email on the chat. So if you need his email, you can email him directly. And he also just placed the web link to CB Insights.
That'll tell you about deal flow and what gets approved. But I generally will monitor, the consulting firm reports to look at approval trends.
Great, thank you.
Right.
Xingjing, I think we are done for now. And thank the audience very much for listening and tuning in.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Or good day.
Or good day. Okay, so for closing, I'd like to remind that we have a longer day of program tomorrow for the day 3 with panels and talks and additional fireside chat. If you wanted to hear these panels and talks, please don't remember to register for day 3, and we look forward to see you again.